And now on paper, that should have been the greatest mismatch of the season, really. The 58-point gap between us and Liverpool prior to kickoff was the largest between any two teams meeting in the Premier League since July 2020. Alfie, you were there for this one. After 28 games, we finally see to have a manager that abandoned his principles and set up a team to play for our, albeit limited, strengths. And what a difference it made.
Yeah, we all could have told Ivan Juric weeks ago, and we did, that it wasn't going to work what he was trying. And he said something interesting after the game, actually. I think he said, in regards to the shape, that at this point in time, the players need to be closer together. And I think he means literally closer together. So he's clearly relaxed this man marking system. Glen shakes his head, but I mean, they were closer together in the sense that the back four weren't sort of following the opposition players all around the pitch. They sort of knew their positions. They had two midfielders in front of them who, admittedly, the two midfielders in front of them didn't stop much, to be fair. They had different merits in the game. But they looked more solid, and that first 45 minutes was really brilliant. And interestingly, that back four was the back four. Carl Peters, Harwood-Bellis, Jan Bednarek for about 10 minutes, and Ryan Manning was the back four last season, wasn't it? So as well as being closer together, literally, physically, they're also probably closer together in terms of relationships and sort of knowing how they work. And I think that maybe played a part as well, because Ryan Manning was really good actually for that first 45 minutes. And I think Curtis Jones missed one chance for Liverpool, a good chance. I think Aaron Ramsdale saved one from Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. But other than that, for that first 45 minutes, I thought Southampton looked fairly comfortable defensively. It was getting to their box a lot, but they were stopping it when it came there. And Ryan Manning a couple of times was that. He was exceptional in that first half. And then they keep going. They get that goal at, right before half time, and they're deserving of their half time lead. And obviously, what comes next is lack of concentration, quality showing, and obviously a bit of sort of VAR Rogery as well. Unfortunately, in my opinion, with at least one of them, whether that's the Darwin Núñez non-red card or the penalty, which I don't think should have been a penalty. At least one of those probably should have gone the other way. But you're never going to get a decision like that at Anfield. And I think 3-1 defeat before the game, we probably would have taken it. We saw 4-4-2, two strikers, neither of them actually strikers, interestingly, but it kind of worked. The only two players I think who didn't really get into the game were the two wide players. Kamaldeen Suleiman had a couple of moments, and Tyler Dibbin had a poor game. Didn't get into it. When he did, his touch was bad. But other than that, I thought everyone sort of had their merits on the day, and it's a shape that hopefully we'll see against Wolves, because it looks like it's just simpler, easier for the players. You know where everyone's going to be, and they can't do the extravagant stuff. We've seen that. So yeah, shame it's taken 28 games, as you sort of said, but I liked what I saw.
Well, we'll get into the VAR stuff and the penalties and who should have been sent off and who wasn't in just a moment. But Glenn, it was nice to see two centre-backs, full-backs on the correct sides, no man-to-man marking. We've been calling out for this for weeks.
Yeah, and I thought all four of the players, obviously Bednarek didn't last very long, but the four that played the majority of the game, I thought they all had decent games. I was in Harwood-Bellis, I thought was really, really good. I think it's the best game I've seen Ryan Manning have in a back four, certainly at Premier League level. It was just a simple job, and playing in a back four and playing your area of the pitch. That's how all these players grew up playing, probably. And I know it's changed a lot these days with Pep Guardiola's influence on football and stuff like that, but. Everyone just looked more comfortable, and the main thing for me is, and I saw Alfie's questions for the manager afterwards. Because we were compact, we sort of protected the areas of Will Smallbone's game where that he's not so good at. He's obviously not great when the play is open and there's large areas of field that he's got to run into. It just that's just not his strength at all. But keeping the back four and the four midfielders relatively compact, that certainly helped. And it was round pegs in round holes, which is what we've been calling for. I mean, the reason I was rolling my eyes when Alfie was talking earlier on is that how has it taken him this long to realise this? I mean, you could argue that, when we went to Arsenal with Russell Martin, we lost 3-1. and it was a similar kind of shape we employed then. So I mean, I wouldn't go overboard and say he certainly cracked it. At the end of the day, we were playing 4-4-2, but the two were both number 8s, weren't they? Really, they weren't. I mean, it was Fernandez and Grombeck who played the furthest forward, but they weren't pushed on Van Dijk and Konate or anything like that. They were playing very, very deep. And I'm at a bit of a loss to explain how we did create chances in that first half. Well, we won a lot of corners anyway, and then got the goal, which is basically them dozing off a set piece, and then they're two world-class players running into each other. That was quite funny, actually. It's nice to know that even the best players in the world we can bring them down to our level. I mean, I watched their game against PSG. I don't know if you've seen it. Alisson Becker's performance in that was just extraordinary, and for him to mess up against us was nice to see. But it was a positive in that we didn't get hammered. Though, we're going to talk about. Someone's going to talk about the Darwin Núñez thing. I think even if he had been sent off, we probably would have found a way to lose. It was just that they upped the pace in the second half, which they were always going to do after half time, and we just didn't really deal with it. But we weren't helped, put it that way. But so it was overall it was better than what I expected, but. Because I mean, I don't know what my score prediction was at the end. I can't imagine it was terribly optimistic.
4 or 5.
It was 4 and 5s across the board, wasn't it, last week?
Yeah. And there's other reasons, of course, why Liverpool weren't quite on it in the first half. They made a few changes and they had the game against PSG. But no, it was good to get out of there without getting embarrassed, really.
So just the last bit, Steve, on the formation. Why has the penny suddenly dropped now? Is it because he's had like 11 days to work on it, maybe? Or was it the rumours about his job this week as well?
I genuinely don't think he'll be the slightest bit bothered about those rumours. I think he would have come into this job with his eyes wide open and knowing realistically what was going to be the likely sort of chain of events. In that, okay, you give me an 18-month contract, but realistically, we're a lost cause already, and nobody's going to want me sticking around come the summer if things continue to go badly or even get worse, which they kind of have done. So, yeah, I don't think he'll be particularly fussed about the sort of outside noise, if you like. I actually just think that maybe the run of games that we had just before the little break that we've had. Maybe kind of just finally sort of clarified things, really. I mean, I guess you could argue that we've not really had huge amounts of time to prepare for anything over the last 2 months or so, because there's often been a midweek round of games to deal with, or we've had a key player who would be making up sort of an important part of the system unavailable, so we've had to kind of cobble together things, especially defensively. We've missed players for multiple games, and it's made a bad defense even worse. But as you said just now, it's the first game where we've actually had last season's back four in place. I mean, yeah, okay, we still conceded 60 odd goals last year, but as Alfie said, there's kind of a synergy there. They kind of know each other's games. They know when they've got to cover somebody else. They kind of recognise the issues that individuals have, and you can kind of make allowances for it and kind of cover in sort of preemptively. And yeah, it was noticeable that Liverpool's XG in the end was something fairly silly. I think it was about 4, which didn't feel like it really reflected the quality of the chances they created, to be honest.
2 penalties there, isn't it? It's making up for 1.8 of that.
The penalty counts as what, 0.7, 0.76 or something like that each.
Yeah.
We'll come on to the decisions in a sec, I assume. But yeah, I mean, when you're basically handing the opposition those sort of chances, like
literally
right in front of goal, then yeah, it's not ideal. But I thought overall there was a structure to the team. You could see that there was a plan. You could see that they prepared very well for it. And yeah, when you get in at half time and you're 1-0 up at Anfield, I mean, you know that home dressing room is going to be pretty fiery at half time. It doesn't matter who the manager is. If you're top of the league and you're getting done 1-0 by the team that's only got 9 points from the best part of 30 games, then yeah, I mean, there's going to be words said. I mean, they made a triple sub, and yeah, I mean, you could see like within a minute and a half that they were stepping up the pace already. That we'd effectively gone into the pit and poked the bear, and then kind of act surprised when he turns out to be a little bit angry. But yeah, I mean, I think it's frustrating the way the goals came about, because actually, for the most part, we defended the shape really well. But again, it's individual moments, whether it's a moment of quality or a moment switching off, that's cost us what would have been an absolutely mental result. I think we were 20-1 just to win before the game, which I think is the longest odds of any single Premier League game this season. I think Ipswich were only 18 or 19, so we were longer than them. And obviously there'd have been a few at the start of the season on similar terms as well. But yeah, if we'd come out of there with anything, then yeah, I mean, it would have been a huge shock. But ultimately, I think if you go up there and you ride your luck, you've got to ride your luck, because you know you're not getting the decisions your way. Then you deserve something out of it. But
that's bad, though, isn't it, Steve? We all say, "Oh, you know," and I said it a minute ago. "Oh, you know, you're not going to get a decision at Anfield. You never get them." But the fact that we say that and that it's actually true is just
it's a nonsense in the game, and it's
always been the way, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, even back in the old days when there was actually a chance of a team of our size winning the league. Sort of and competing on a regular basis as we did in the 80s. You'd still go to Old Trafford, even when Man United were crap. You'd go to Old Trafford and you'd never get a result. You'd never get a decision go your way. Same at Anfield. You just don't get it, and it's ridiculous that is the case. I mean, the game is already stacked in the favour of the big clubs without these kind of nonsense advantages. I mean, let's take that first penalty as
let's go through them in order. Let's start with the foul on Walker-Peters. That Nunes foul on Walker-Peters, Alfie. I mean, that was checked by VAR, I think. In your opinion, should he have gone? It was the way that Carl reacted to me, the fact he got up and was after him, and he doesn't do that. You don't normally see that from him.
I think, to be fair, I think that was 50-50. At the time, I watched it on the replay, and I watched it obviously in real life, and I wasn't that annoyed that one wasn't given, but I can understand why people are saying it is. So maybe I'm not the best person to come to with that one, but I wasn't sat there furious and saying he should have definitely gone, although I can see the argument for it. The second one for me is the big one. All right, there's some contact, but Will Smallbone barely even moves his leg towards Darwin Nunes. He sort of falls with his other leg before the contact, so that's for me the contentious one. And then number 3, obviously Sugawara. I mean, yeah, he's just made a silly mistake, and actually the same mistake he made. Same mistake he made against Liverpool in the first game.
Let's get your thoughts on those then, Glenn. The foul on Walker-Peters, which was checked by VAR, and then obviously that penalty, which comes at a key moment in the game where Smallbone doesn't follow through, does he? Joe Hart, I think on Match of the Day, said he thought it was a stonewall penalty, but him and the referee, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, the foul on Walker-Peters, he'd obviously lost his head, Nunes, for some reason, some imagined problem that he had with everything. There's been a lot of noise recently about deliberate fouls. Usually they're talking about pulling people back. Mm-hmm. And you see commentators all the time saying, oh, that should be, it's between the yellow and the red. That's an orange card. Well, for me, that what Nunes has done there, it's totally deliberate. So that's the first thing. And there's some violence behind it. Mm-hmm. It's not that he's just like pulled him back or he's just sort of caught his heel or anything like that. He's basically wellied him one. And to me, I think it's probably not beyond the threshold for getting sent off as a home player at Anfield. But if Ryan Manning had done that to Mo Salah, he would have been having a very short afternoon. There's just, and you won't convince me otherwise of that. I mean, yes, they said it happens at Anfield. It happened before VAR, and like an idiot, I thought VAR was going to correct this sort of thing, and the big clubs wouldn't get every decision. But it's just as bad. Obviously, is another reason for getting rid of it. And it's just, disappointing. But I'm not surprised that he wasn't sent off. And it's just sod's law that the bugger scores straight away, doesn't he?
And he's shushed the crowd as well. By the way, he's shushed the away fans.
He ran 60 yards to do that.
He is such a strange fella.
Yeah,
it's like such a snowflake. It's like such a thin skin.
Levi Colwell during the week, giving it the one. He scored against Southampton. Well, no, that's all I want to say about that. It's just like, Pillock, shut up. But I mean, but the penalty shout. I mean, I don't think it's a foul. You're fuming if that gets given against you. He's barely touched him, and he's just crumpled in a heap. He's lied on the ground pretending to be injured as well, and it's just. I mean. The referee was a relatively young ref. I think he had a good game. It's only his 5th Premier League game. So if he doesn't give it, they probably can't. They probably don't overturn it and give a penalty. But once he's given it, there is a modicum of contact, even though
it took forever to actually give it as well. By the way,
yeah. I just think it was a young ref at Anfield under pressure sort of thing, and maybe that's being a bit patronising saying that, but. I think
that's exactly how it is.
Maybe a more experienced ref wouldn't have given that, but it's just annoying that having not got sent off the same player, and don't get me started on Match of the Day because I watched that with interest, and they were just collectively ass kissing Darwin Núñez basically saying, "Oh, he had a great day, he had a great day." Well, okay. No, he didn't really. And saying it was never a red card. I mean, there's one angle with the red card challenge where it looks like he's actually somewhere near the ball, but there's no intention to play the ball at all. So I think he was a very lucky boy, but I'm not surprised that it went the way it did.
Steve, your views on those, just for the full house?
Yeah, I think it's a red. I think it's. But ultimately, it's probably one that the ref's got to give immediately. But I mean, he's literally right there. It's right in front of him. Walker Peters has already knocked the ball 5 yards ahead of Núñez, and Núñez has basically decided, well, I'm just going to hoof you. He's kicked him as hard as he possibly can from behind, kicked him up in the air. And I mean, if you're not going to give a red card, if you're going to give a red for sort of serious foul play, sort of when the ball's gone, that is kind of the dictionary definition of that offence for me. And it's just soft refereeing, soft VAR again, because they don't want to force the guy to overturn it and make him look silly, and because he'll obviously be the one that's on the volley of abuse from the stands and the home dugout. As for the penalty, I mean, they keep rolling out this new phrase, contact with consequence. And I mean, there's a fraction of contact, but the consequence of Núñez going down and clutching his ankle as if he's been stamped on and as if his ankle's hanging off by its tendons.
It doesn't relate to the contact, does it?
Not in the slightest. And
no correlation.
And actually, even though the referee has fallen for it at the time, even having taken a good few seconds to look at it and think, "Ooh, am I gonna be the guy that gives Liverpool a penalty in front of the cop?" Yes, damn right I am. Having been that guy, the VAR should be telling him, the contact that has been made does not remotely relate to the way that he's gone down like a sack of shit. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that should have been overturned. Núñez, I mean, he shouldn't have been on the pitch to have done that in the first place. I mean, at the end of the day, still playing 10 men against Liverpool at Anfield, you would still expect they would have the quality to find a way through. But at least if we'd lost them, we lose on our own terms. and it does feel as if we've been mugged out of what would have been, the greatest result of the season for pretty much any team, I would have said.
And then, of course, we're denied the excitement of chasing an equaliser with the third penalty, or the third goal, the second penalty. No excuses really from Sugawara, was there, Glenn? That was just, we got the subs ready to come on. You got Tall Paul's about to come on. You think we might be able to throw something at this and maybe get a point, and then it's just crap again.
I mean, we're talking about Uric having a half decent day. If you've got Walker-Peters and Sugawara on the pitch, 99% and they're playing on the same side, 99% of people would put Sugawara in front of Walker-Peters, as in further up the pitch. Because this is another thing about knowing your players. I mean, he said something about Will Smallbone afterwards, about his, the fact that he's not the most physical, athletic, whatever. But Sugawara is a terrible defender. He basically has no composure whatsoever. Defending is about consistency and having composure, and he has none. As soon as he is under any pressure at all, he just panics and does something stupid. I highlighted it a week ago, 2 weeks ago against Chelsea, where he just tried to smash the ball off a Chelsea player whilst facing directly towards our goal. It's just madness. He's given away the handball at home to Liverpool, and he was under a little bit of pressure from Diaz, but Diaz was, Sugawara was in between Diaz and the ball. It's just basic shield.
For once, his positioning was actually good.
Yeah, and but not only did he shove the ball with his hand, he then passed it towards the penalty spot. and Ramsdale was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And Harwood-Bellis had to get himself injured, clattering into a tackle as well. So. That was good play by Harwood-Bellis to react to that. But he's an absolute train wreck anytime he's put under any pressure defensively. And so to bringing him on to play right back in a back four is just a nightmare. He's good going, he's decent going forward. So I know Walker-Peters got beat for the first goal, but that was really good play by Diaz, and that happens occasionally. But yeah, Sugawara defensively, it's just the most predictable thing that he's going to struggle, and to give away another goal like that. And I was watching it, and it's just, I saw it as a foul, as a handball in real time. I'm not complaining about VAR in the slightest on that. When boom, have it. It's like very, 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 very obviously a penalty, and Mo Salah covered up another poorish performance against us by smacking 2 penalties into the top corner, which is more or less what he did. More or less what he did at St Mary's. But I guess it's just rewinding to what we were saying earlier. I guess it's a positive. We only let in 1 goal from open play at Anfield, and that's that's arguably
didn't part like the Red Sea, did we?
No, and we didn't make it easy for them to score their goals, which has been a criticism that we've had all season.
That's all we were asking for, really. A couple of other bits, I guess. We were told that it's Grombeck, isn't it? He couldn't play in the same position, or he could only play the same position as Fernandes, so we wouldn't see them in the same team. But that seemed to change. Alfie, I know you mentioned it briefly earlier, but just like that front, was it a front 2, front 3? I thought Fernandes and none at times. I thought Fernandes actually had a decent game as well, so it was. That might be something we can do again.
Every week. Yeah, like I say, they shouldn't change that team now, really, bar any. Jan Bednarek obviously came up with a concussion sub, but Ivan said that there's a 6-day rule, so he thinks he'll be back and available for the first day against Wolves next week. Although Amo-Ameyaw did actually pretty well, so there's no real reason to change the team for me. I think it would be tinkering for no reason. But yeah, I think what Grombeck did most importantly was just, he added a lot of energy. And he was all over the pitch, like everywhere, haranguing players. I don't remember seeing too much of him in terms of creativity. But he might have had a couple of moments that I missed. But it was mainly just that sort of determination, hard work, and getting all over the pitch, which we need at this point. One of the things Ivan said before the game was that he was asked about, obviously, the results, and he's obviously not happy about them. But he said, I'd be very happy with 0-0. In any game, I'll be very happy with 0-0. And so I think that this sort of 4-6-0, I think will continue, and I think Grunbeck is a very key part of that defensively, more so than he is an attacking player. So we could be seeing some 0-0s maybe.
Yeah, but we're going to get onto the Wolves game. You can't go 4-6-0 against Wolves at home.
I think he might
can't do it.
I think he might.
Yeah, you can't do it. You can't do it. I hate this no striker rubbish. It's like you're giving in. I've hated it all season. Russell Martin tried it, hated it then. Yeah. I don't like it. You've got to have some pressure put on there. I mean, it was all right in the first half. It worked okay, but once Liverpool upped the pace, it was just ridiculous. The good bit of analysis they did do on Match of the Day was the fact that all 11 of our players were boxed in to an area that was about 30 yards square. And you've got to be able to at least give the defender something to think about. You can't do that in a home game, but like you say, he probably will.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of questions about Flynn Downs, so I thought we'll just quickly address that.
Did we find out about that? Yeah, was there any word on why he wasn't in?
Yeah, no, he was at Anfield. He was with the squad. He was the spare man. It's purely a selection. He's just not as good as Adam Lallana and Will Smallbone, I guess, is the verdict. And don't forget that he had all his midfielders back, right? So he had Leslie Ugochukwu was back. Obviously, Will Smallbone started. He had Adam Lallana back for the first time in a few weeks, and Aribo was on the bench as well because he didn't play at centre back. So he had 4 centre midfielders. It wasn't like he was being left out completely. But Flynn Downs was there at Anfield. He was with the squad. He just wasn't selected.
That's nuts, isn't it, Glenn? I mean, to
my mind, it is. But I mean, managers. I mean, I'll give him a bit of a pass on that one. I mean, I totally disagree with him. But if that's the manager's choice, then Flynn Downs has not been outstanding. I mean, I can't understand why Joe Aribo didn't start ahead of Will Smallbone on the face of it.
Yeah.
But that was a manager's call, and he did kind of get that one right. I mean, it's certainly not what I'd have done, but it doesn't matter what I'd have done, to be honest. So I mean, if Flynn Downs had been excellent and he left him as 21st man or whatever it is, then I'd had something to say about it. But that's it's a bit of a strange one, bearing in mind Lallana, as we know, he played 20 minutes, so that would probably be the last we see of him before he retires, because he's only ever lasted 5 minutes up till now. So I'd be interested to see whether he's actually fit for next week. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. He clearly doesn't rate Flynn Downs at all, and it seems that he holds a grudge for a while.
They've made up. They've kind of kissed and made up, but maybe not
a little bit.
Not all is
yeah.
forgiven.
I mean, Bella Kotchap was nowhere. Then he was on the bench, unused for 10 games or whatever it was, and now he's trusted. So I think it's probably just an extension of that, because he had Leslie Ugochukwu available this week because we weren't playing Chelsea, and he changed the formation, so Joe Aribo could be considered a midfielder. He probably just thinks that's that's where he stands in the pecking order right now.
And it was a quiet afternoon again for Tyler Dibbling, Steve. I know he's sort of struggled a bit since he's come back from his injury, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I still maintain we rushed him back, and there's some after effects of that. I mean, that knock he got at Old Trafford, we were told 4 to 6 weeks, and within 2.5 weeks he was back in the first team, expected to basically beat the entirety of Burnley's slightly sort of reshapen 11 on his own. And yeah, surprisingly enough, he's looked a little bit leggy. I mean, obviously there's a lot of outside noise with Tyler as well, isn't there? I mean, difficult to know. I mean, I've never spoken to the kid, so I don't know whether he's able to kind of shrug that sort of speculation and context off and kind of just blank it all out or not. I've no idea. So it may be that some of the speculations get into him a little bit. It may just be that he's a 19-year-old kid and he's just knackered from his first ever Premier League season, where he's played an awful lot more minutes than I think he would have expected, a lot more minutes than anybody else in the football club would have expected or would have liked, I think, because you would like to be able to ease a player like him in relatively gently. But we've kind of saddled him with the responsibility basically since he had that first start against Man United and tore Diego Dallo a new one for 40 minutes. He's been the go-to guy, and I mean, eventually other teams work out how to defend against him. Some choose to kick him up in the air. Others choose to double mark. And unfortunately, we've not been good enough to use that sort of situation to our advantage elsewhere on the pitch. So yeah, I think probably a combination of a few things, unfortunately.
Anything else on Liverpool before we do Player of the Week?
I'll just say, did anybody watch the pre-match press conference by any chance?
No.
I mean, I think I can't. Forgive me if I've got his name wrong. I think it's Jeremy Langdon from Sky Sports, but it was just.
Oh God! What sort of nonsense question did he?
Well, no,
did he
it
come
wasn't
out with?
not necessarily that. It was the most sort of brutal assault of 10 successive questions that I've really ever heard, and I thought Ivan Juric handled it well, but it was brutal. It was like it was questions like, "What do you seriously think you have a chance against Liverpool?" Or do you really have the players to do this? Why have you not changed your system? Do you really think what you're doing is going to work? And I was just sat there like, wow, fair play. I mean, you question him, fair enough. And he answered it with class. And, that Budget's for. If anybody watched it, they'll know what I'm talking about. It was ruthless.
I bet he can't wait to get out, to be honest.
The thing is, I honestly think, like, I know a couple of people have sort of said to me, I think he took the job and he doesn't care and he just wants his sort of payday until the end of the season and he goes off into the sunset. He probably would have been paid more if he just sat on his backside getting paid by Roma. So I don't think that's true. But I think he will be genuinely disappointed it hasn't worked. It's just, in some ways, it's his own fault. It's just taken this long to work out that the players couldn't do what he wanted to do. But I think he is somebody who actually genuinely does want to do well. And in the back of his head, I think he genuinely hopes and believes that he could still be here next season. So I don't think it's a case of him sort of riding off into the sunset all happy. But yeah, he's just made some mistakes.
Well, he changed his system, didn't he? And if the previous manager had done that, then we might not be as cut as we are now.
And the thing is, and we talk about, you asked Steve earlier about why is the penny finally dropped now? Well, the thing is, with Ivan, the penny dropped after Brighton. But he then went back to the same thing against Chelsea. It was so. Would you remember after Brighton, he said, I've got to adapt. My players can't do this. And then 2 days later at Chelsea, before the game, he said, no, we're gonna give it another go. We're gonna try. And then obviously, Chelsea weren't clinical. But I mean, Cole Palmer was 1-on-1 about 6 times in the first 10 minutes. And it was the same story again. And now the penny's finally dropped 10 days later. But you think, he realised that 2 weeks ago. Why has it taken till now?
But I think part of that was obviously where there was such a tight turnaround between Brighton and Chelsea. They've had, at most one training session. So I kind of have a little bit of sympathy with him in that sense, because then after Chelsea, you've then had this 11-day window where he's been able to, okay, right, that Brighton one was a mess. So let's rip that up and let's go with this. And yeah, I mean, we've seen that there was a little bit of structure there now. So maybe now, what we got? We got one midweek game left this season, which is Palace. Maybe Fulham gets moved if they get to the semi-final. Yeah. And other than that, we are weekends only for the rest of the season. So there should be enough time to work on this system and make sure that there is a solid base, regardless of who we're coming up against. And let's be honest, we're not going to play against a team as good as Liverpool for the rest of the season at all. Arsenal and City have got to come to us, but I mean, as we've seen over the course of the season, they are a level down from Liverpool this season.
And the Arsenal game would be a dead rubber anyway, wouldn't it? Is that the last game?
It'd be nothing. Yeah, there'd be nothing on that at all.
Oh, with our home form, they'll be absolutely terrified.
5-5 draw.
Let's do Player of the Week, shall we? Go on, Glenn. Do you want to?
Player of the Week.
What are you going to say about Arsenal?
No, I was just going to say how terrified they're going to be coming to Fortress St Mary's with 8 defeats in a row or something like that. And yeah, I'm sure they'll be proper pupping it, waiting for that one. Player of the Week. There were a number of players that played well. I'm going to say Taylor Harwood-Bellis.
Okay.
I thought, I just, you've got more responsibility in a back four. You can't pass things on to other people. You've got to do the job. I've said this plenty of times before. There's no question when the ball's in your section of the pitch, then you have to go and do the defending. There's no backup behind you. You have to do it. And he just looked so much more comfortable in a back four, and I thought he was pretty impressive all game. So I'll go with him.
Anybody else? I mean, Ramsdale's won obviously for the last 2 weeks on void vote, so he's tied with Tyler Dibbling now at 6 wins this season so far. So I'm going to say Ramsdale again, just because there was a couple of decent saves in there, and he couldn't do much about
that one from Elliot at the start of the second half was excellent because it came through bodies, and he kind of got his lower arm to it as opposed to his hand. So the reaction time for that was excellent.
Does Manning or Fernandez get a shout as well this week?
Ryan Manning certainly does from me.
Yeah, I'd throw Manning in.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got Harwood-Bellis, Ramsdale, Manning.
And Fernandez again, I guess.
Well, Smallbone, surely.
And Smallbone for scoring the goal, yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, the thing to think with Smallbone, obviously, I mean, he got rid of his social media a year, 2 years ago now, I think it was, off the back of a load of absolute idiots in our fan base, and the same is happening again. Only this time it's actually in the ground, which is ludicrous. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, where you got the sort of mental scenario where a kid who literally is one of us and is getting absolute dog's abuse every single week. But he's a guy who clearly cares and wants to do well. It's not his fault that the manager's has been putting him in systems and positions that are exposing him. It's not like he's doing it deliberately. Yeah. And yet you've got other players who have made their intentions very, very clear in terms of where they see their futures, with them very much not being with us. And yet they get a hero's welcome when they set foot back on the pitch for the first time in 18 months. It's mental, some of the mental gymnastics that some of our fans go through at times with these sort of things. And I think Smallbone to have been able to kind of still get through all the nonsense that's going on, and to put in a pretty good performance, I would say, against the best team in the country, possibly the best team in Europe, speaks volumes for the character that he's got, I think.
That's a good enough argument for me. So let's go with Smallbone, we'll go with Manning, we'll go with Ramsdale, and we'll go with Harwood-Bellis then for this week's little vote, and we'll see where we get with that.